What if the answer to your deepest struggle is not in another expert's opinion, but in your own words, written at 6 in the morning? For 7 years, when infertility treatments failed me, I faced a painful reality. The medical system had no answers. But what if the answers I needed were not in another doctor's office, but somewhere inside myself? What began as desperate scribbles in a notebook became the practice that helped me reclaim my sense of self trust. And by the end of the story, you might discover how just 3 pages can speak louder than years of experts' advice. This super simple journaling method transformed my relationship with myself and gave me clarity when I needed it most. It's a practice anyone can use when life has taken away their power. Research shows that infertility can be just emotionally draining as chronic illness. And I felt that so deeply. I developed a radar for any casual mention of kids. Everywhere I looked, there they were. A coworker's comment about a birthday party, a friend's Facebook post. Everyone else seemed to be moving forward, celebrating milestones. But me, I felt like a ghost in my own life. Eventually, the test results stopped making sense. The numbers, the charts, they all blurred together. And one day I was just staring at another report when something inside me just cracked. The doctors kept saying everything looked normal, but my body clearly wasn't responding that way. The medicine could tell me that nothing was wrong, but my reality said otherwise. What I needed, I wasn't another specialist. I needed a friend, maybe even a fairy. And weirdly enough, that magic showed up in a beat up spiraling notebook I would originally bought for my grocery lists. One day, I just poured everything into those pages, the anger, the jealousy, the heartbreak. It came out in scribbles and in all caps. And for the very first time in years, I wasn't even editing myself, just letting it all spilled out. Here is the thing: journal does something weirdly powerful with strong emotions. It gives them a place to land. Studies even show that writing down your worries physically lightens your mental load. I'll tell you, it feels like setting down heavy bags on a bench instead of just dragging them all around. That first journal entry didn't really fix anything, but it did something better. It created a breathing room for me. And in that space, I started noticing patterns. For example, how often I equated motherhood with my worth, like I was somehow less of a woman because my body wasn't doing what I thought it was supposed to do. Or how deeply I would internalize the idea that my body was failing at its most basic job. Those blank pages became my confessional. It felt safe, like no one was judging. Some days I wrote the same words over and over again. I'm tired and why is it happening to me? I would circle it, underline it, or press the pen so hard. But other days, something soft snuck through. Like maybe I would sign up for a painting class. That notebook held all of it. It all started as emotional survival, but slowly became something more, a kind of a roadmap. Without even trying, I began connecting the dots, like how doctor's appointments left me feeling numb, and a walk in the park watching happy families strangely lifted me, even though it was sort of bittersweet. It was like my journal held up a mirror to things I was too overwhelmed to see clearly before. And somewhere along the way, I stopped being the passive patient and I started listening to myself again. The more I wrote, the more I realized none of these doctor's visits could answer the real questions I had, like, what's my purpose now? Am I still strong? Or who am I becoming through all of this? Those questions were not in the lab reports. I started finding them on the pages of my journal where I finally stopped performing for everyone else's expectations. That notebook became probably the first place I didn't have to pretend. That's where the healing began. Literally, just one page at a time. My journal became more than a place to vent. It turned out into a mirror that reflected the pieces of me I have forgotten. One day, without expecting it, I found myself writing about how much I used to love drawing. I know it sounds so simple, but it was about reclaiming something I had buried for years. And my journal didn't just show me what I missed, it revealed what I've been avoiding. Like the day I started writing about my biggest fears, of course, I feared never becoming a mother, but beneath that, I was really afraid of turning into a bitter person, of being defined by what I didn't have. Writing that down helped me see myself that way. And once something is on the page, you could finally start working with it. You can ask, like, what do I need to move through this instead of letting it quietly shape me? I started noticing how often I made myself small to make others feel comfortable. That awareness was so subtle at first, but it grew. And I remember complaining to my journal, like how uncomfortable it was speaking up for myself. And not long after that, I actually said no to something I didn't want to do. It was many years ago, but I still remember how great it felt. One day I decided to try something new, to write about what makes me happy. Just find one thing a day. And some days I would write something very plain, simple, like, oh, I survived the day today. And over the time, I started catching small moments of peace, like admiring the way sunlight looked on my bedroom wall, or like when someone smiled at me. It sounds very basic, I know, but it genuinely helped me feel like a happier person. The journal taught me how to hold two truths at once. For example, to grieve what might never happen, but at the same time, to stay open to what might still be. And I thought about the friendships I made with other women going through similar stuff. We bonded over shared pain. And how weirdly, not knowing what was coming next felt like a strange kind of freedom. I admit these pages never give me easy answers, but they do give me something I think even better, a proof, an evidence of how many times I have felt like I just couldn't go on and somehow I keep going anyway. And on the really hard days, that is just enough to know, just enough to take the next breath, the next step, enough to trust that I'll keep figuring things out. One morning, flipping back through my journal, I noticed I had written "they say" multiple times. They say women should want children above everything else. They say you need to constantly work in to be successful. Journaling has a way of making those voices visible. Suddenly, you see the assumptions you have observed from who knows where, the patterns you have repeated without even realizing it. Research shows that this kind of stream of consciousness writing can build self trust even more effectively than meditation because you are literally watching your thoughts take shape on a page. For me, the pages exposed how often I outsourced my life, like how in my early 20s, I picked a career filtered through what I thought my parents might think, or how my daily routines were shaped by whatever I would just read in the latest productivity book. It was so clear how rarely I actually stopped to ask myself what I wanted. So I started a new habit. I started writing what is true for me. Things like, I do my best work in the morning, or I actually need way more time alone than I ever thought. And I actually hate Russian, even if it makes it seem like I'm lazy. These were my truth. Trusting yourself feels a lot like learning to walk again, so unsteady. One of the hardest moments was when I actually canceled a weekend packed with plans. It was nothing dramatic, just probably back to back commitments I would say yes to out of guilt or habit. But that one day I stayed home. I turned off my phone, made a slow breakfast, and sat with my journal. And I admitted I needed this time so bad, more than I needed approval. Journaling creates this gentle kind of distance. Psychologists say basically that seeing your thoughts on paper helps you see them more clearly, I would say. Like they're not stuck inside your head anymore. I began catching myself while I'm writing, thinking things like, everyone will think this is so selfish. Then I would ask, well, do I think it's selfish? Now, when I see anonymous posts online asking strangers for their opinions on big life decisions, I often think, you probably already know the answer. You just haven't given yourself permission to listen to yourself yet. These days, when I have a question or feel unsure, I don't run to experts first. Guess what? I reach for my journal. And the answer might not appear all of a sudden, but something always pops up. My values, my deal breakers, my gut feeling that tells me yes or no. My internal rule, the one question I have to ask myself is, does this feel like freedom to me or obligation? And that has become my compass. Journaling didn't magically erase my doubts, not at all. Sometimes I still write, I don't know what to do. But the difference is now I believe I'll figure it out. That's what it means to move from seeking permission to building your inner authority. Some questions don't demand immediate answers. They're just, I would say, invitations to keep writing your way forward. The practice of journaling became my morning ritual, a constant I could count on. No matter what happened the day before, I always had those blank pages waiting. Some days, especially when life feels overwhelming, just opening the notebook feels like an accomplishment. The feeling of the pen gliding on the paper, the coolness of the page under my hand, it all became part of this ritual, grounding me in the moment. And funny enough, the days I think I have nothing to say often produce the most honest writing, reveals truths that I didn't even know I was holding to. There were weeks when all I could write was one honest line, I don't know what to write. But even those entries carried something absolutely real. And over time, these lines turned into moments of awareness, a sentence here, a realization there, not breakthrough, more like gentle shifts, just enough to feel like something inside me was stretching, was softening. Journaling became my mental filter. Writing 3 pages each morning cleared my head better than anything else. This clarity extended to decision making too. When facing big choices, I would write, not necessary to find immediate answers, but to uncover what truly mattered to me, my priorities. Like the time I was debating a new job, on the surface, I thought I was afraid of starting over. But deeper truth was I was afraid of losing my balance. And that insight didn't come from pros and cons list. It came from showing up with a pen and letting the truth reveal itself. This practice changed how I live with uncertainty. Nowadays, I write, hey, we've been here before, and follow it with whatever helped last time. That small reminder of resilience is sometimes all I need. And yes, eventually the situation that first broke me open, the long wait to become a mother, found its own resolution too. It took a few more years, but by then I had changed. I was no longer waiting to feel whole. The practice had already made me someone new. It changed how I see myself, how I navigate through challenges, how I approach life's uncertainties. As you could see by watching this story here on YouTube, where so many of our lives unfold now, this simple practice has become the foundation for everything. And I hope it shows the stories that shape us the most are not always the loudest. They're the quiet ones we live through, page by page. Journaling is not just a space to hold your thoughts, it's a space that can hold you together when nothing else seems to. You've heard probably that science says that journaling clears mental clutter and brings peace among chaos. And I would say it gave me back my inner authority. And if you are in a season of not knowing, if you are looking for a way back to yourself, I want to offer you something. I have created a free 10-day journal with gentle prompts to guide you into slowing down and reconnecting with what's already within you. The link is below and it's yours to explore. If you are ready to go and dive deeper, I have put together a few other journals to walk with you through bigger seasons of your life, exploring your dreams, your ideas, your endings, and your new beginnings. The blank page is never just a page. It might be the doorway back to yourself. What would change for you if you gave yourself space to listen? Maybe your next page is the beginning of something too. I hope you sit with it and see what starts to unfold.